The 2018 election cycle showed an unprecedented amount of outside and super PAC spending in Alaska campaigns. Following the Supreme Court decision in Citizens United, the Alaska Public Offices Commission stopped enforcing Alaska's limits on independent expenditures. Since 2008, independent expenditures in Alaska elections increased 360%, and in 2018 constituted 36% of total spending. Nearly 2/3 of that money is from outside donors. And now that the court has struck down Alaska's limits on outside contributions to candidates, again citing Citizens United and related cases, the problem will only accelerate. It's worse at the federal level. Our Alaska members, our Alaska delegation, collect between 55 and 85% of their campaign war chests from outside donors. On average, members of Congress spend more than 20 hours a week fundraising when they're supposed to be doing the work that we sent them to DC to do. Alaskans are fed up with outside interests telling us what to do. The big money kingmakers are swamping the political voice and preferences of ordinary Alaskans and eroding our rights to self-governance. More money does not mean better information for voters' decision-making. It just means an incessant flood of emotionally manipulative sound bites. It's time to defend and enforce Alaska's campaign finance law, which in the last iteration was passed by the voters with a 73% margin of approval. We are the sovereigns in this democratic republic. It is time for us to rein in and correct the Supreme Court through a constitutional amendment. It is time for our representatives in Congress to pass the 28th Amendment and refer it to the states for ratification. There are a couple different versions of the amendment currently pending in Congress, with more than 200 co-sponsors between them. The version I favor is House Joint Resolution 48, the We the People Amendment, which provides that the judiciary shall not construe the spending of money to influence elections to be speech under the First Amendment. And the rights protected by the Constitution are the rights of natural persons only. Artificial entities are subject to regulation through federal, state, or local law. This says that profit and nonprofit corporations, unions, trade associations, and of course political action committees don't have inherent rights. They are all tools of our civil society organized under state or federal law to serve our various purposes, whether economic, social, or political. Each type of artificial entity needs its own suite of powers, privileges, and protections to effectively serve the purposes for which they were authorized. The legal scope of these powers, privileges, and protections must be deliberated by our elected representatives and codified in statute. The political privileges we grant to them will vary based on their appropriate role in our system of self-governance. I work with fellow citizen activists in Anchorage Move to Amend to build support for the 28th Amendment. Over the last 7 years, we have gotten resolutions of support from 23 community councils and a number of other community organizations. Last December, the Anchorage Assembly finally passed a resolution of support. Now we are working with citizens across the state to build support for a resolution in the state legislature. We want Alaska to become the 20th state calling on Congress to pass the 28th Amendment. What can you do? You can get involved. You can call on your legislators to sponsor a resolution. You can reach out and educate your friends and neighbors and pass resolutions in your own civic organizations. You can call on our congressional delegation to sponsor the amendment. You can, of course, join and support the organizations that are working to protect and defend your democracy. Move to amend American Promise, Wolfpack, Alaska Common Ground, League of Women Voters, and new on the scene in Alaska, you'll start hearing about ranked choice voting.